All right, Drew Cheap, welcome.
Thanks. What's up, John?
Man, it's really, really great to have you. We go far. We go way back.
Oh, yeah.
I know you and I served together in student ministry. I think in '07, right when I got here,
Yeah.
and that was 18 years ago.
18. Geez.
Yeah, and you are wearing a back-to-back T-shirt.
I got it on today, man. Yeah.
Who is back-to-back? What can you tell us about?
Back to back. It's one of our mission partners, and you and I went on some mission trips with them,
Mhm.
and did some staff work with them for a while. They do work with orphans in various countries around the world, and they like to partner with the local partners that are already working in those spots. So
Yeah.
they do a lot of meaningful work down there.
Yeah, they've been doing it a long time. One of the cool stories I remember about them is that they started because they were a youth group on a mission trip.
Yep.
And they decided as a couple,
Mhm.
these pastor
Yep.
leaders decided to say, let's do this for forever,
Yeah.
or as on the
Yeah.
mission field.
Man, they've
Remember
made
that?
some huge changes, and it's been cool to see.
Yeah.
Like you said, having been in contact for 18 years or so now, seeing some kids grow up, go to college, be successful is very cool.
Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know you served on the staff there.
Yeah, Jess and I did some staff over a couple summers.
That is amazing.
Yeah, super fun.
I don't remember that.
I had so many tacos.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID. That's how I'm measuring time now. It's
That's right.
pre-COVID.
All right. So we're diving into this brand new series. Pete kicked us off last week, the Easter conspiracy or the Great Conspiracy. What was your take? What were some of your takeaways from his message last week?
Man, I mean, what a cool history lesson. First of all, to figure that out, but the more I reflected throughout the week, it was like there's something serious about Jesus. Obviously, I've known that growing up in the church, but to have that sort of reaction from people all over, both political and church and financial, there's something serious going on about Jesus, and whether you're a follower or not, you could see there was something different about him.
Yeah. I felt I was back in Bible college days, man. Yeah, but it was good. It was so solid, and it reminded me. You're just like you said. I think there's something about it. I mean, if he was just some normal guy, you wouldn't have all of these really big forces.
Yeah.
And all of these resources kind of coming together and joining force to actually put him to death.
Conspiring, if you will. Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. Conspiring him. But this week, we are diving into the one kind of the linchpin, because it really only took one. You had all these other individuals that were kind of, all these other forces that were at, coming to bear, but it only took one guy to really make it all happen. And that was Judas. So, what are some of your impressions about Judas?
It's a story being in church we've heard a lot of times, but a lot of my questions are like, why? Is there a purpose behind it? Why is the story told this way? What am I learning from it? Am I Judas? Am I Jesus? Am I Peter? Where do I fit in this kind of questions? But,
yeah. When I think about the gospel writings, one of the things they had the benefit of is, they wrote all of those biographies of Jesus, of course, years and years after.
Yeah.
So they had that benefit of hindsight. So everything they wrote about Jesus was, or Judas,
right,
was pretty negative. They made it pretty clear this is the bad guy. Every time he's mentioned, he's branded as the traitor.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I don't think they had a clue.
I mean, that moment where Jesus says that I'm going to be betrayed, and everybody's like, who is it?
Yeah.
You're like, man, these guys, nobody knows.
Yeah.
To your point, it's obvious in hindsight. At the moment, clearly, Judas had them all fooled.
They were all questioning themselves, like, is it me?
Yeah.
Am I gonna? They were suspecting themselves over anybody else in the room.
Yeah.
Including Matthew the tax collector.
Yeah. True.
Simon the zealot, who was basically an assassin. That's
wild.
Yeah. So you had these two guys there. It seemed like they would have been like, oh, maybe those two.
Maybe
guys.
one of those.
But nobody said Judas.
Do you think they went and talked later in a side group chat? Like, who do you think it really is? I don't know.
Yeah. But he was the guy. So let's talk about this one event, because let's dive into some of the motivations that he may have had. What do you think triggered him? Because obviously there was something about Jesus that enamored him, that he gave 3 years of his life.
Yeah. So
Jesus chose him, selected him, but there was something on Judas's end that said, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like, why would he, number one, why did Jesus select him? I think that's a much larger, question. But in my mind, I'm thinking, like, why did Judas give so much of his life to Jesus, and then at the end, like, betray him?
Yeah. I was thinking that this week, and Pete did a sermon, maybe it was a year ago or so now, about guys or people that were following Jesus looking to get something from it,
Yeah.
kind of with a different motivation. And so I'm always wondering, like, Jesus offered so much, but if you misunderstood what that would manifest itself as, I think you may have gotten towards the end of Jesus' time and thought, like, wait a minute, where are my riches? Where's my fame? Where's all this stuff that I was supposed to have from following the world's greatest leader? And I could imagine, with Judas, it plays out like greed, as if all he ever wanted was the benefits from it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of them thought that. I don't think it was just Judas. I think a
Yeah,
lot of them were thinking like, yeah, this is my ticket.
right.
Jesus is my ticket.
Was it Peter? Was
Pe-
Peter one of those guys?
Maybe. I think all of them at one point or another misunderstood Jesus.
Yeah.
Obviously, they all did. But Judas was the only one that really betrayed him.
Hmm.
Now, some denied, some ran away, but he's the one that really turned him over to be executed, to be
Yeah.
crucified. Let's look at this one event that actually is the event that caused Judas. It triggered him to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm going to turn this guy in.
Yeah.
Let's look at that. That's in John 12, 1 through 6, and I'll read Mark 14. So why don't you read that, John 12, 1 through 6.
Cool. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. Martha served, while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of perfume. But one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. As a keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it.
Yeah. Now, I'll pick up here in Mark. It says, then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted to hear this and promised to give him money. So he watched for an opportunity to hand him over. So again, this is the benefit of hindsight. They were so clear there, like, this is the why. He didn't care about the poor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they caught that then.
They must not have, right?
I mean, I think at that moment, it might have been like, you know what? Oh, look at Judas. Judas has such conviction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, why don't we give it to the poor? What are we doing?
Yeah, what is she wasting this stuff for? Yeah, so yeah, I think at that moment, but I think again they're thinking back in hindsight, like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's why he did that, because it's right after that event, he got up, he left, and he went and said, "I'm going to turn him in."
Yeah.
So why? What was it about that event you think that,
Man, that's such a good question. There's just so many times, not only in this story, but Jesus does counter to what we think he would, even if we're Jesus followers.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes we're just like, man, we can't wrap our heads around this. He's talking about giving to the poor and giving all your money, and there's so many examples of that. And then here it seems like he's wasting it. And I think if you've missed that point, you just, you can't reconcile with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So who knows what was in his mind? Obviously, there was some greed involved, and he was really thinking that Jesus was kind of his ticket. But maybe he was also thinking like, okay, if I turn him in, maybe this will force Jesus to really use his powers and to raise up an army and to use his messiahship as So he might have been thinking that. There were some things that happened later on. That caused me to think like maybe that was a little bit, maybe it was a little bit more than just money, But he obviously he betrays him, 30 pieces of silver. In the very end, we see Judas in the very same courtyard at Caiaphas' house, pretty much within the same time frame that Peter is there, who we know also denies Jesus. Doesn't betray him, but he denies him. That strikes me. That there's these two guys right there, pretty much in the same vicinity. Jesus is on trial, and one denies him, and all of a sudden, when he goes to Pilate, Judas sees him being taken off to Pilate, being handed off to Rome. That all of a sudden you see this humanity in Judas, because up until this point you see him as like, oh, he's the betrayer. Yeah. But then the scripture says he was like, all of a sudden this remorse, this regret, because he saw that he's done. I think it's that moment that he was thinking like maybe when he was pushed up against the wall, Jesus would come out and he would like exercise his power. Yeah. But you think maybe that was the moment?
Man, that one is, you do have a heart when you see Judas realize all of it, whether it was intentional and he just didn't realize how greedy he was, or if he had really just misunderstood the whole thing and thought really this is going to work and it didn't. I don't know, but you do have that humanity moment. And you do almost feel bad, and you sort of, and you see the same thing with Peter. You mentioned him. Peter gets to that moment where he's like, "Oh shoot, that was me that denied him 3 times. I said I never would." You get that moment of realization.
I don't know if it's if you've had these experiences, but I know I have it where you feel like you've misunderstood Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's probably been times, especially in ministry. We've been in ministry a long time. Where I feel like maybe looking back, I feel like maybe I misrepresented Jesus.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like or thought that?
Oh, you want a traumatic experience? Go read some old social media posts or something. But if they're related, Jesus and all, you are thinking like, man, I was so naive, or I was so misunderstanding, or whatever. But for sure, there have been moments where I'm like, I did have it all wrong, and it's a little scary.
Yeah.
Although the good news is that Jesus accepted anybody at any point in time who came back and realized what they had done.
Yeah.
But it is scary to think, am I doing that now?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I think that's why it's always good. I guess to stay close to him.
Yeah.
Always be observant. Always be tuned into him, abiding in the vine. I think that's what's important. But also knowing that there are going to be times we misunderstand him.
Yep.
We misrepresent him, but that we always go back to him.
Yeah.
Stay close to him, and because that's where the grace is found. So
yeah, it's encouraging.
Yeah. Well, Drew, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
excited to be here.
Appreciate you being a part of the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks.